promoting and supporting some of the cornerstones of the American experience. It's all about family, faith, and freedom. Now let's get back to the Curtis Report with your host, Barry Curtis.
Hey, welcome back to the Curtis Report. Appreciate you being here in the Curtis Report. Engaged in a very interesting conversation with the director of one of the executive directors of Ku Klux Klan, Pastor Thomas Robb, and we're talking about his church and his faith and his teachings. Pastor Robb, before we went to break, we were talking about some of the idiosyncrasies of your church doctrine, what you're teaching in that church. Just kind of depart from that just a little bit. I noticed on your website, I mean, this seems to be like a family affair. I mean, you've got you have a children's camp and you have specific children's Bible study. Is that correct in your church?
Well, like any other church, yes, we have a children's program.
Right. Now, in your church and the children's program, what specifically do you teach your children as far as separation of races? What specifically, on a practical sense, do you say this is why you don't have black friends, or you cannot marry a black person, Asian person, a Native American person? Well, what specifically do you tell your children?
Well, we think we have something precious to preserve. We have a wonderful heritage, a wonderful culture that we feel that is worthy of preserving. Now, somebody who does not feel that, well, then okay, I guess they can destroy their culture, but their heritage and their bloodline. But people seem to have more concern and more care about what the pedigree of their dog may be, or their horse, or their cows. They're more concerned about their pedigree and their lineage and their papers and so on.
Well, I mean,
and have little regard for the bloodline of our own people.
You're saying bloodline. This is not really blood, because you don't see blood. I mean, you're talking about how people look. You're talking about the physical features of people that you're trying to preserve. This isn't about culture.
More than the physical features. I think there's other spiritual inner features within people too, and this is why Western civilization has been the leading role in the world, and. So it's more than just whether somebody has black skin or what their nose looks like or their eyes or physical features.
But that's on the surface what you look at first, right?
Oh, that's of course that's what you look at first. But I said there also is a spiritual capacity that is certainly a part of it.
So
spiritual capacity is, of course, what's important.
So there's been no contributions between people who are non-white in Western civilization?
Well, I wouldn't say there's been none. There's certainly been some from people who were perhaps mixed. But as far as look at the history of Europe and you look at the history of Africa, and if there's a considerable difference, I think that.
Well, there's difference. Is there difference just in culture and physically viewing somebody? But why does that equate into inequities? In other words, just because there's differences, why is one greater than the other? Obviously, there's differences. There's differences between a man and a woman, but not necessarily one is greater than the other.
I mean, it depends how you interpret the word greater.
How do you interpret it?
Our forefathers were building cathedrals in Europe thousands of years ago, and the African today is still building grass huts that won't last past the next rainy season.
Yeah. So you haven't obviously visited cities in Africa. You haven't obviously visited Nairobi. You haven't obviously visited.
Well, you've got white influence. Certainly has been a part of all African culture today. Now, I was raised in Detroit, Michigan, as an example, and Detroit, Michigan, under the white influence, the same as every other major city, was a prosperous. The blacks in those communities were prosperous. The birth rate among the black children was more, the black families rather, was more solid. 75-80% of black families were, was a nuclear family back in all your major cities back in the 1880s, 1920s.
But what's your point on that, Pastor Robb?
And so forth, under the influence of white law and order. And that has been removed.
But Pastor Robin, I'm interrupt you, but you don't think that the issues of 400 years of slavery have something to do with the disintegration of the black family?
No, in fact, the black family was strong and intact in 1950, black female households was only 18% of the black population. Today, 70%. So it has regressed from even 50 years ago. New York City in 1925, New York City, 85% of black households were two-parent households.
Right, and you're saying,
but
that
today
you're saying that is a result of what? Because you can't have it both ways. You're saying that's
a result of when you remove the white influence from those.
What's the white influence, though, Pastor? What's the white influence? Are you talking about government's heavy hand? Because the argument can be made that there are more blacks on welfare now than what before. There are more blacks getting government assistance. What's the white influence?
That's absolutely true. You're absolutely right. When I was raised up in Detroit, Michigan in the 1950s, my dad sold insurance, and many times he would go into the black community. Back then in Detroit, they call it the colored part of town, but, times change. Go into the black community, and he sold insurance. He had a debit route, and in the summer times, I would sometimes ride with him. Mm-hmm. And there was never any fear of me riding along with my dad. There was never fear from my mom. The black communities in the 1950s in Detroit and every major city of the country was safe, secure. The families were strong. The children were not scared of being shot down by a drive-by, like the little black girl a few weeks ago shot down while she's doing her homework on her mama's bed.
Well, but don't pretend, Pastor Robb, to be concerned about the little. But Pastor Robb, yes, sir, Pastor Robb, don't be. But let me share with you, Pastor Robb.
Was removed
Pastor
from
Robb.
The black.
Are you? Yes, sir.
The white Christian influence has been removed.
Are you being a bit disingenuous, Pastor Robb? Pastor Robb, are you being a bit disingenuous to care for a little black girl, the same little black girl that you wouldn't even let in your church? I mean,
no, not at all. Not at all. I do care about all people, but we're not.
You just won't worship with them.
We're not doing black people service as we thought we were by removing the law and order, the society that has been created by white people. When those things are removed, then chaos ensues. And I think that we see this not only here in this country, but we've seen that even in Africa, where prior to under colonial rule, Rhodesia is a good example. Rhodesia was a very prosperous country.
Rhodesia had, in effect, institutional racism, Pastor Robb, that kept down black people.
The average, over 85% of black children in Rhodesia were attending.
Well, in Rhodesia, sir, black people couldn't vote, sir. And in Rhodesia, sir, black people couldn't live with white people.
Hey, Rhodesia is chaos, and those black children who once were getting education are not getting education today.
Really the white influence, Pastor Robb, sir, the white influence that you're talking about, Pastor Robb, okay, is the influence of control. It's the influence of the overseer, because you're using the examples of Detroit in the 1950s, and you're using examples of Rhodesia in the 1940s and 50s, which was a British colony, which had institutional.
Way up into the 60s, early 70s, when it changed the name.
Okay. How would you? What's a perfect world for you, Pastor Robb, as it relates to the races? What's a perfect world for you?
I think for everybody to get along with each other would be nice, And but when you begin to when people force their way into our communities, then people become angry and upset with that. I don't know why. I don't know why black people can't appear to have anyway, and maybe I'm wrong, but let's find out. I don't know why they have to feel they have to force their way into a white community, force their way into our society.
You're right, Pastor Robb.
They're not quite happy among themselves.
Right.
I understand.
You are correct, Pastor Robb. You're wrong. You are correct.
Force your way into our communities. I hear sometimes people say, "Well, if you don't like it, then go to some island and have your own little white."
Well, that's what you did. You left Detroit, Pastor Robb. That's what you did, right?
We've had our white communities, and people want to force their way. That's not a Christian attitude. To force your way into somebody's home, to force your way.
And you repay back Christianity by denying worship to black people?
In the 1960s, Martin Luther King and the whole civil rights movement, and Martin Luther King was
Tell me about Martin Luther King. Hold on just a second. Pastor Robb. Pastor Robb.
Washington was a homosexual.
Pastor Robb.
He was close to all kinds of leftist groups.
Okay, Pastor Robb.
Miles Horton of the Highlander Folk School.
Pastor Robb.
All kinds of communist activities. And he used to march and say property rights are more important.
Well, obviously, Pastor Robb is going off on a racist rant here. But Pastor Robb,
but when you take away property rights, you destroy.
We want to have an intellectual discussion here, Pastor Robb.
You destroy liberty.
Pastor Robb, we want to have an intellectual conversation here. Not yelling and screaming. We want to have an intellectual
conversation. I'm not yelling, I'm just talking.
Okay, yeah. Well, you're talking over me, but what we want to do is...
When you interrupt me, I feel I have to finish my statement.
I understand, Pastor Robb. That's about that control thing again, isn't it? Pastor Robb, you'll be on our website, so we'll have this information on our website, and we certainly will have the recordings available to you. I do appreciate you coming on the show, and thank you very much for being part of the Curtis Report. We're going to be right back with more of the Curtis Report.
Yeah, our best is always love your God and love your people. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. That's the end of our show this week. We'll see you next week. Remember, on the seventh day, God rested, and he thought. And on the eighth day, God made radio.
Conservative principles and the man who's not afraid to use them.
I can hear you!
Thanks for tuning in. The Curtis Report with Barry Curtis will be back with a fresh take on the week's events and the issues that matter to you.
Free at last! Free at last! Thank God Almighty! We are free at last!
Faith, family, and freedom. Join us right here on your home for the Curtis Report.
The Curtis Report.